The September 11th attack did not appear out of nowhere. It cast a long shadow before it ever happened. Warnings existed. Reports were written. Names were known. But the information never came together. This is not a story about what happened that morning. This is a story about what happened before it. Years before September 11th, intelligence agencies around the world were tracking a growing threat. Al-Qaeda was not a secret. Its ideology was documented. Its leadership was known. There had already been attacks. Embassies bombed. Ships targeted. Lives lost. Inside U.S. intelligence circles, analysts warned that another strike was coming. The question was not if, but where. Fragments of information began to surface. Suspicious flight training. Foreign nationals interested only in steering, not landing. Unusual movements that, at the time, felt disconnected. No single warning screamed danger. But together, they formed a pattern. The problem was not a lack of intelligence. It was a lack of connection. Agencies operated in silos. Information was guarded. Reports were compartmentalized. One department knew a name. Another knew a face. A third knew a location. No one put it all together in time. Field agents raised concerns. Memos were written. Meetings were held. But urgency was diluted by bureaucracy. Warnings were labeled not specific enough. Threats were considered theoretical. Meanwhile, some of the future hijackers were already inside the United States, living openly, taking flight lessons, moving freely. The danger was close, but it did not feel immediate. In the summer of 2001, a warning crossed a desk at the highest level. It did not give dates. It did not name targets, but it carried a chilling message. Al-Qaeda was determined to strike inside the United States. The document would later become one of the most scrutinized pieces of intelligence in modern history. Not because it predicted the attack perfectly, but because it suggested the threat was already known. What followed was not action, but waiting. As summer turned to fall, the pieces remained scattered. No unified warning was issued. No airports were locked down. No emergency protocols were activated. The system did not fail in one dramatic moment. It failed quietly, gradually, through hesitation and delay. By the time September 11th arrived, the warning signs had faded into background noise. Routine replaced urgency. Normalcy masked danger. And the clock kept ticking. What makes this failure so unsettling is not that the attack was unpredictable. It's that it was incomplete information, not absent information, that allowed it to happen. And once the morning began, there would be no time left to stop it. After the attacks, investigators returned to the warnings. They reread the memos, reconstructed timelines, connected dots that had once been separated. What emerged was not a single mistake, but a chain of missed opportunities. Each fragment, on its own, seemed harmless. Together, they formed a warning that came too late. The realization was devastating, not because it changed the outcome, but because it revealed how close the truth had been all along. September 11th was not only shaped by what was ignored before it, but by what unfolded during it. As the attacks began, confusion took over. Information moved slower than events. Decisions were made in minutes that should have taken seconds. In the next episode, we reconstruct the most chaotic period in American airspace history, a time when no one had the full picture, and every decision carried irreversible consequences. Because once the first plane hit, the world had only 102 minutes to respond. By 10:28 that morning, nearly 3,000 people were dead, but the crime didn't end when the towers fell. Because long after the smoke cleared, questions remained. Questions about warnings that went unheard, decisions that came too late, and truths that were never fully revealed. This is the story of a crime we solved, and a truth we still don't completely understand. September 11th, 2001, began like any other Tuesday. The sky above New York City was impossibly blue, the kind of clear morning that makes a city feel calm, safe. Commuters filled the subways. Office workers carried coffee and briefcases. Inside the World Trade Center, elevators climbed, phones rang, and meetings were scheduled. No alarms, No warnings. No sense that anything was wrong. Thousands of people entered those towers believing they would leave again by evening. They were already inside a crime scene. The first impact was at exactly 8:46 a.m. American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower. The sound was not an explosion. It was a violent tearing, steel ripping apart. Fire consumed entire floors in seconds. At first, many believed it was an accident, a terrible mistake, an aviation error no one could have predicted. Emergency crews rushed in. Firefighters climbed upward into smoke so thick it erased visibility. Police cleared streets as burning debris rained from above. Inside the tower, people waved from shattered windows, hoping someone could see them. 17 minutes later, the truth arrived. The second plane, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower, live on television. The fireball erupted outward, and the world froze. This was no accident. This was coordinated, deliberate, planned. In that moment, September 11th stopped being a tragedy. It became a crime. The incoming of collapse and chaos is when smoke filled stairwells. Elevators failed. Some people descended hundreds of floors guided only by voices in the dark. Others climbed upward. Firefighters, carrying gear heavier than their own bodies, moved toward flames they knew might kill them. At 9:37 a.m., another plane struck the Pentagon. Confusion spread across command centers. Information came in fragments, some wrong, some too late. Then, at 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. The sound was not a blast. It was a roar, like the city itself breaking. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower followed. In less than 2 hours, the skyline was gone. The attackers would later be identified, their organization exposed, their motive documented. The crime, officially, would be considered solved. But the most disturbing part of this story is what happened before the attack ever began. Investigators launched one of the largest criminal inquiries in history. They traced bank transfers, flight school records, rental cars, phone calls. The names became known. Mohammed Atta, Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. The world was given answers, but behind those answers were cracks. Warnings had existed. Intelligence fragments scattered across agencies that never fully connected. Some reports were dismissed. Others were buried. Decisions were delayed. And for thousands of families, closure never truly came. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost that day. Some bodies were never recovered. Some questions were never answered. Some truths remain classified even now. September 11th is not a cold case, but it is not fully closed. In the next episode, we examine the warnings that existed and why no one stopped what was coming. Because sometimes, the most haunting mysteries aren't about what happened. They're about what could have been prevented. Like and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories.